Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Spooky AF. This is actually a very special guest episode, our first guest. So today I am joined by a dear friend, Mr. Daire Sherwin, who is just an enigma wrapped in mystery. This man is literally a rocket scientist. He is just skeptical, just a fault basically. There's nothing that goes past him that he doesn't have some thought of, some backed up science actually, when he is skeptical. And I will frequently get messages off him after episodes with his thoughts on these things. So naturally Daire would be the one to guest on this episode. You know, Daire's a man who is, he's been around the world a bit. He's done some things, and he's here to join us today. So, Daire, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hi. Oh, cool. No, thanks for having me. That was quite the introduction. I think you've oversold me a little bit.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
If anything, I've undersold you. I have to keep some secrecy to your identity.
I'm like nobody. I'm just some guy. I know like people guests on podcasts are always trying to like plug stuff. I have nothing. I'm just here.
Well, you see, if anything, you're the ultimate guest. You have nothing to plug. You're here basically just for the ride.
Straight entertainment. Yeah, let's go.
yeah. You're literally the ultimate guest. You're in here just for sheer kind of ride together, die together sort of attitude.
Yeah. No. Thanks for having me, and yeah, looking forward to it.
No problem. And so before we start, I need to know, where do you fall down on the world of the paranormal? So we'll start with, where do you fall down on the world of ghosts? What's your thoughts on ghosts?
Oh, ghosts? No, I think spooky stuff is fun, obviously, but I'm usually kind of on the skeptical side. Don't think ghosts are real, but kind of if you put me in a haunted house or spooky situation, I'll get freaked out.
It's true, actually. You're the one person that I always associate with, you don't do horror.
No, and it's if you're saying, oh, we're going here, it's dark, it's some decrepit mansion, I'm like, no, I'm not going. It's I'm a big scary
That's
guy.
fair. That's more than fair. So ghosts.
So just hope ghosts aren't real.
That's fair. To be fair, I kind of fall down on a similar area of I don't particularly think that ghosts are real. I think they're fun stories, but at the same time, I don't particularly want to find out that I'm wrong.
Yeah, same. It's I'm not gonna gamble.
Yeah, it's the same with demons and things like that. I don't want to fuck with that.
No,
I have no interest in that. And it's something that myself and Suze actually talked about when we were coming up with kind of different podcast kind of episode ideas and all. We were talking about our line in the sand, and for me, very much so, the line in the sand was, I'm not fucking with demons and I'm not doing Ouija boards. So anything else I'm fine with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there's going to be no Ouija board special?
If there's a Ouija board special, it's probably because I've been possessed by
episode.
some sort of ghost.
There's no episode the following week. It really
we
worked.
know something's gone wrong. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that'll be a no-go for me until basically the very end, or I've been financially incentivized to do it, which then I have absolutely no morals at all, so that's fine. Grant, so we've covered ghosts.
Yeah.
How do you fall down on the world of aliens?
I mean, aliens is different because it's the universe is so big. There's definitely aliens out there, but I don't know, do they visit or not? I don't think a lot of the thing. Nowadays, everyone has a phone with a camera, and we still haven't gotten good photos, clear photos. So it's kind of
that's true.
Yeah, but it's...
I mean, to be fair, if you lived in the corners of Reddit that I live in, you would absolutely see some evidence of UFOs.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I do think there's aliens out there somewhere. I don't think they've come to Earth, for whatever reason. There's that whole thing of the Great Filter, where it's why haven't we found kind of other signs of life? And it's have they all died, or are we the only ones? And they're all kind of that's all those kind of theories are kind of terrifying. I don't know, is that the right name, the Great Big Filter? It's probably something.
I think it could be.
Yeah,
but it's also the Star Trek kind of principle of they're waiting for us to discover FTL
that's the
travel.
Thing. I'm hoping there's a prime directive out there, and they're all just kind of waiting and hoping. So
they've got odds.
They've got odds.
On
Yeah,
humans
there's bets
discovering.
Yeah. Which is,
and every time we get close, we really disappoint them.
They're clapping their hands, they're going to do it, and then we goof and back to square one. No, I do think there's aliens, but out there, I don't think they've come to Earth. And if they have, I don't know, it's could an alien crash? I mean, possibly, but if it crashed, is it just going to be completely obliterated to the point where we wouldn't find anything? Yeah, I don't know. And so
that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, ancient aliens were here.
Oh, that's true. I mean, yeah. course.
That's not for debate. Yeah.
There's no other way we could just pile stones on top of each other.
The History Channel wouldn't lie to us. I have an archaeology degree, so I can say with certainty.
That's what he did in day one. The lecturer is just, it's like, shout, it's aliens, throws the book, leaves.
Yeah, so actually day one we walk in and day one the lecturer is all like, oh, welcome everyone, we're semester one, you're all first years, obviously things are very different from school, and it's my job as your lecturer to bring you through the world of archaeology and through college and all. And as he's doing this, the doors kind of close and things like that.
Takes out the red pill.
Yeah, he basically the lights go dim, a torch shines up underneath him, and he's like, all right, now I'm going to tell you the real fucking truth.
Training wheels are off.
You want to know the real truth about the world? The government is hiding everything from us. And that's basically how it went. So after that, then they gave us the customary hat and whip and basically told us to go out and sort out the world. And that was basically my archaeology experience. So,
Oh, Indiana Jones. Sorry, I'm really slow. I didn't pick up on that.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Oh, embarrassing.
I'm surprised you didn't pick that one up. Yeah.
It's like,
I won't be edited on that one out either. Sorry.
What's he talking about?
The world must know. Well, look, I'm glad you've given us your opinions on the world of aliens, because it is now my job today to convince you that you are in fact wrong. Okay. I'm basically here to red pill you effectively into the world of aliens.
Well, I've been waiting.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, there's no better time to start or area to start with than a series of UFO sightings that happened in Belgium in the 1990s.
You know what? I'm actually kind of glad that a UFO sighting that's not in the US, because they always land in America, and it's like, when is the rest of the world going to get any kind of action?
Yep.
I know you're saying,
true.
I know you had one where it was like, there was one episode in the UK where there was like alien sighting, but
Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know what? Good for Belgium.
Well, look, they are famous for their beer and their chocolate, and now they have another opportunity to become famous for aliens. So, yes, what I'm talking about today is known famously as the Belgian Wave, or the Belgian UFO Wave. And this took place in, as I said, Belgium from November 1989 to April 1990. And the interesting thing about this case is that during this time, literally thousands of people reported seeing strange lights and shapes in the sky, and even the Belgian Air Force got involved in a high-speed chase with an unknown object. So I fucking came here ready for this one.
I have questions, but okay, continue.
Okay. And there's a range of theories on this one, as you can imagine. Everything from a mass hallucination event, a secret military project, all the way through to UFOs and extraterrestrial visitors. So it's it covers a range of topics.
It's covering all the bases, a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it is. It's doing what it needs to do. So you mentioned questions. Is there anything in particular you'd like to ask before we jump into this one?
So the Belgian Air Force military got into a chase with a UFO.
Yep, they did.
Multiple times or just the once?
Just the once.
Okay. So it wasn't just like, it's them again, and they scrambled the fighters.
No.
Okay.
So, and you'll be glad to know that the Belgian Air Force at this time, they weren't fucking about.
Right.
It was actually F-16s that they sent out.
Okay, so it wasn't like little dinky little
No, it's not like the Irish Air Force.
I was going to say where it's like little rubber band powered airplanes chasing after them. I was like, there's no way.
No
way. That's
basically
UFO.
Basically, if you want to know what the Belgian Air Force was like in 1989, just picture Top Gun.
Excellent.
But they're Belgian.
Amazing. So it's Poirot instead of Maverick.
It's Poirot basically. It's Top Gun, but they all have beers, really good beers, and there's chocolates everywhere basically.
Fantastic.
And you've pretty much got the Belgian Air Force. So these lads don't fuck about.
Right.
So getting into the start of this, let me kind of set the scene for you. So on a clear night in November 1989, near the town, I will start actually by saying my pronunciation on these things are going to be horrific, so I apologize to our Belgian listeners. We actually have some Belgian listeners going into this episode. I fear we may lose Belgian listeners coming out of this episode, so I apologize in advance. So near the town of Eupen, which is close to the German border, two policemen, Heinrich Nickel and Hubert von Montigny.
Brilliant names.
Great names.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially Hubert. They were on a routine patrol when they noticed some bright lights in the sky. They initially thought that it could have been a helicopter, but as they got closer, they realized it was something else. And what they actually reportedly said was it was something huge.
Right.
So I've seen a quote from Heinrich Nickel where he says it was a triangular shape with 3 enormous spotlights pointed towards the ground and a red flashing light at its center. The whole thing was floating in the air and it made no noise at all. It was like nothing I've ever seen before.
Okay.
So the policemen were understandably quite freaked out by this. They didn't know what was going on, and at the time the Cold War was still knocking around. There was a genuine fear that Russia was still gonna get up to their shenanigans, even though it was clear that the Cold War was starting to kind of thaw a bit.
Yeah,
it was still going around.
Stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Communism was still kind of going around and things were still happening. So, I'm assuming that these Belgian police officers were probably thinking more the communists are here, especially with the red shining light, rather than it's aliens.
I love that where it's okay, in the secret Soviet bases, we're going to build some sort of flying machine, but we're going to cover it in red lights just so that everyone knows it's us.
Well, how else are you going to know it? How else are you going to tell people?
We got to style it right.
You've seen Red Dawn. They needed to make themselves known.
True.
Yeah. Naturally, it'd be the same as well. If the Americans turned up, it would be with blue, white, and red. There'd be eagles on it. It's just the way of the world. Basically.
The way things
it's
are.
a universal law. Yeah. So the policemen, after kind of conversing back and forth with one another, they decided to call their dispatcher.
They're just looking at this happening ahead of them?
They are, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They don't know what's going on. So they decide to call their dispatcher, Albert Kreutz, who initially thought that they were joking and was basically getting ready to hang up on them. But then they pretty much emphasized to him, we are not fucking about here. This is very much so happening. So the dispatcher, rather than sending more police out, he decided to ask them to follow the object and report on its movements to him.
That's always a good idea. It's
yeah. So Kreutz then, in a quote afterwards, said, "They told me it was moving slowly across the sky, and then it stopped above a field. They said it was so big that it blocked out the stars. They were scared, and so was I." So I love how this lad is on the phone to them, and he's basically living this through them.
Yeah,
effectively.
even he's spooked by it.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah,
getting,
absolutely.
He's getting the second-hand account.
This is it. And I think the thing that stood out to me was that he says it was so big that it blocked out the stars. So this kind of object, it's
That could be
a triangular shaped object, flashing red, floating silently in the sky
with lights
blocking out
beaming out of
lights. Yeah.
It is how many stars though? They don't give an account of the scale. Is it just
No, so I didn't actually see that, but they did say that it was floating in a field and that it blocked out the stars. So I don't know how close it was to them, if it was quite a bit up and this thing is just massive, or what's going on, or if it's a case of the lights were quite bright so they just couldn't see the stars.
True.
So I'm not sure. So the policemen then, naturally, with the kind of the size of this thing, the lights and all, they weren't the only ones who saw the UFO that night.
Okay.
At least 30 other groups of witnesses, including other policemen, firefighters, and civilians, reported seeing the same or similar objects in different locations. Some of them even took photos and videos of the phenomenon.
Oh.
And the sightings were so widespread and consistent that the Belgian authorities actually decided to take them seriously, and they launched an official investigation.
So, in the 80s, people got recordings.
Yeah, so 1989,
I suppose.
1990, this is, they got some recordings.
Yeah.
They were pretty, happy with it, basically.
Yeah,
so.
and it was, from, reputable people as well, policemen, firefighters,
yep.
so on. It wasn't just, crazy guy living out in the mountains. Yeah.
I mean, he could have been as well. I'm sure he saw them as well. Yeah.
I told you.
So let's not let's not discredit him either.
Okay.
He's the source of a lot of our paranormal stories. So Daire, I'm going to send you the first picture that I have.
We have
this was
photos.
Yeah, we have photos. So this was actually taken on the night in question, and
it's very blurry.
it is. So this is a triangular shape with lights on each end of the triangle. So it's an equilateral triangle with a light on the end of each, and then in the middle of the triangle there's a light as well.
Yeah.
Allegedly taken from the ground, pointing upwards at night.
Right underneath it.
Yeah, close enough to
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Like, to be honest, like this could have been like taken like yesterday. Like it's really hard to make out anything in it.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
Now, in fairness, it's like 1989. It's like something that's moving, like slowly but still moving, and like person's probably spooked, shaky hands, all that stuff. So yeah, like not best photo, but yeah, can't really make.
It's something.
It's like you're not. Yeah, I'm immediately like that's not a helicopter, because up to this point I was saying okay, it's probably like a helicopter or an airplane or something like that in the distance, and they're looking at it from a weird angle. No, that's none of those things.
yeah, pretty much. So it's in an interesting shape. It's that kind of like triangular sort of UFO shape that we've all kind of come to associate with.
I mean,
with UFOs.
What else?
Kind of modern day UFOs.
Yeah, like triangle's the best shape. So like
it's true. Yeah, it is true. I do prefer the triangle over the flying saucer. That's controversial, I know, but it's a personal preference. Yeah.
Are you gonna like lose half your audience now that you've like come out and said it?
Yeah, probably. To be fair, the flying saucer's had its time. It's the age of the triangle now.
I'm right. So I'm on board. I like the triangle. It's cool.
Yeah, well, there we go. We have two people who've just claimed it there. So it is sturdy.
Aerodynamic. There's so much going for it.
Yeah, it is. Now, segue. There are other shaped UFOs out there. There is one that may be slightly cooler, which is a teardrop shape.
Okay, that's
if we're looking at aerodynamics.
Yeah,
that's a good one
fair.
as well.
I like that.
And then obviously there is the cigar-shaped UFOs as well, which I just love that there's just this giant cigar flying around, basically just knocking about in the world.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned the cigar-shaped ones before.
That was the Aurora UFO.
It just seems weird, and it's like I don't know.
Yeah, look,
it's too similar to rockets, like our rockets. So it's like like docking marks from them on that one
for originality. Yeah,
but
right.
like triangle,
I respect that.
It's like I don't even know what I'm looking at in this picture. So it's like
it's true.
I like
triangles also look cool.
Yeah.
I got to give it to them. Yeah. So as I said, the Belgian authorities basically were like, right, something's clearly gone on here. We need to investigate it. So the official investigation, another great name, was led by Colonel Wilfred de Bruver. He was the head of the Belgian Air Force's operations department. So this lad is actually like quite senior. Like he's been around a while.
Yeah, they're not like fobbing like this kind of loser officer off.
No.
Okay.
No, this lad means business.
Yeah,
like he's serious. Yeah.
Serious stuff happening.
Yeah. So he understandably was skeptical at first, and particularly with being Air Force, naturally he would be skeptical. Like he'd be kind of going like, no, it's clearly just probably some military craft that we're unaware of. Probably maybe from our allies in the States. Like they have all sorts of stuff. Like Belgium is on the west side of Europe as well, so like it's only natural. There are also like U.S. Air Force bases.
Yeah.
In the UK, which is close to Belgium. So he's probably thinking something like that.
I was going to ask, is there US like Air Force bases around? And like
there's a few of them in the UK at this point.
And like not on
and throughout Europe.
Oh, and on mainland Europe, right?
Yeah. So they're kind of like NATO bases, but they are mostly made of Americans.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas in the UK, they're genuine Air Force bases, US Air Force bases.
Right.
So he was skeptical at first, but as he collected more and more evidence, he became convinced that something extraordinary was actually happening. I actually have a quote from him saying, "We had hundreds of testimonies from credible witnesses, including policemen and military personnel. We'd radar data that confirmed the presence of unidentified flying objects. We'd physical traces on the ground, such as burnt grass and broken branches. We had no explanation for what these objects were or where they came from." So he's bringing some receipts to this. Like he's saying that they've got some shit, like they're kind of backed up with what they have here.
There's something funky happening. Yeah, it's like it's not just people saying they saw something. Okay.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about the physical traces on the ground is that like burned grass and broken branches thing. Obviously broken branches implies that either it was flying quite low and hit off trees or whatever, or potentially landed. The burned grass one is a funny one because it does come up in UFO kind of stories over and over again. A lot of people claim that it's to do with radiation, and that it's burnt the grass basically through direct exposure to like quite high levels of radiation.
Okay.
I've not seen any kind of studies around like the amount of radiation that was potentially here or something, but it's an interesting one that people kind of associate it with radiation.
Yeah, I kind of wonder like if it's given off that much radiation, like I don't know much about radiation, but if it's given off that much that it'll burn grass, like whoever took this photo, I don't know if it's dangerous for them to be
exactly.
there.
Yeah. So De Bruver decided to cooperate with a civilian organization called the Sobpeps.
What? Okay.
So
what does that mean?
SOBEPS. Sobpeps.
Sobpeps.
Yeah. Which it's obviously in like French potentially, or like Flemish or something like that, but it stands for the Belgian Committee for the Study of Space Phenomena.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they were a group of scientists and researchers who were actually interested in UFOs and have been collecting reports and evidence since the beginning of the sightings. And together they analysed the data and tried to find patterns and clues. So the interesting thing about this kind of group of scientists and researchers is that they were openly interested in UFOs, which were still kind of, at this point in the like late 80s, early 90s, it was still kind of like a taboo topic. Like it was, people kind of lost their careers over this, particularly like pilots and things like that.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that these scientists were like, we're interested. We're going to kind of keep an eye out for it and see.
They were out and proud about it, saying like, we're
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that they noticed was that the UFOs seemed to appear mostly on clear nights when the moon was full or nearly full. And for some reason, they also seemed to prefer rural areas and avoided flying over cities or military bases.
Makes sense.
And they determined that they seemed to show some kind of intelligence as they reacted to the presence of witnesses and sometimes performed evasive maneuvers, or as they described, playful actions.
I was going to say, what kind of evasive maneuvers do you need for someone on the ground?
I don't know. Like, if this is in America, like
true.
They would have had to deal with getting shot at.
This is Belgium, so it's like
Probably
not as bad. But.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. It's probably mostly just like teenagers just like trying to throw bottles of beer and stuff at them.
I understand like going to the countryside and they're just kind of like dipping their toe in instead of going like right over the military base. But,
yeah. They're probably just trying to get like a bit of a, an idea, a bit of a feel for Belgium.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one anyway. But the most interesting or intriguing thing, I suppose, that they discovered was that the UFOs had some like pretty amazing capabilities.
Okay.
So they could allegedly fly at insanely fast speeds. They could change direction instantly. They could hover silently, and then they could also apparently just disappear in a flash. And then kind of on top of this, then they acknowledged that this defies the laws of physics, and they showed no signs of inertia, gravity, or aerodynamics in any way. They could accelerate from 0 to hundreds of miles per hour in seconds without making a sound or leaving any sort of trail. And they could also fly at very low altitudes without causing any disturbance to the air or the ground. So it's really interesting, and it kind of these sort of characteristics made the UFOs really hard to track and identify, and they posed a challenge to the Belgian Air Force, which was tasked with protecting the airspace and the sovereignty of the country. So, yeah, I guess from a Belgian Air Force point of view, it's not ideal if you have scientists being like, yeah, we don't know.
Don't know what it is, lads. Like, just, it could be anything. Like, it's...
Yeah.
They can go anywhere. They can do anything. You have no hope.
Yeah, you got some, like, US Air Force colonel in the background being like, I know what it is.
It's demons.
I seen it. It's them space demons.
They're coming to get you.
Yeah. Just imagine this like grizzled colonel, like probably with an eye patch or something.
Yeah, you've seen it all before.
Yeah. Basically, like something pulled straight out of like Stargate or something. Just it's an interesting one though, because you have these scientists basically saying like they appear to show all of these characteristics, but then they also acknowledge that these characteristics aren't possible because they're defying the laws of physics. Now I also understand people say like the laws of physics as we understand them.
Yeah, like that's the kind of thing. Like they could, if they've traveled from another planet, another solar system, they obviously know their stuff and have probably figured out things. But yeah, it's like we aren't going to know how they're doing it. But at the same time, it's like, how else are they going to do it? Like there's certain laws that they have to like absolutely adhere to. I don't know. It's sorry. I'm going to try and I'm trying to poke holes at it as I go. But
please poke holes all you want. It's my job to convince you, and it's your job to push back. So it's absolutely fine. So we're getting to the juicy bit of the story now.
Excellent.
So remember earlier how I said the Belgian Air Force is basically like Top Gun at this point?
Yeah,
it is. So the Belgian Air Force basically faced its biggest challenge on the night of March 30th, 1990, which, for anyone listening, we're recording on the 27th of March, so we're only 3 days off the 34-year anniversary of this.
Oh, incredible.
Which is just fantastic timing. So on the night of March 30th, 1990, this is when the UFO wave reached its peak.
So it lasted it wasn't just like a weekend or a week. It lasted
No, this was November to April.
Oh, wow. Okay, so good length of time.
Yeah. So on this specific night, one unknown object was tracked on radar, and they were so certain that they got a tracking of it, they actually scrambled two F-16 fighter jets to intercept it. And what followed was what I just saw described as a dramatic and baffling chase that lasted for over 1 hour and was witnessed by several radar operators and ground personnel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the chase began at around 11 p.m. when the control reporting center at Glon, a military radar station, received reports of 3 unusual lights moving toward a town called, and I'm going to apologize so much for what I say here, Tarombe Gemblo.
Yeah, I think you butchered that.
100% incorrect.
Yeah, there's no way that's correct.
I don't think anyone noticed. It's fine.
No, continue. Let's go.
So the central reporting, or the control reporting center, asked the local police to confirm the sighting, and the police apparently got back pretty quickly and were like, yeah, there's something here. So they described 4 lights arranged in a square formation making short, jerky movements in the sky.
Oh, so we've evolved from triangles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the less structurally sound square. No.
Well, it could be 2 isosceles triangles joined together end on end.
That's true.
Yeah, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. The reporting center then contacted the traffic center for control at Semerzak, which is another radar station, and asked them to check their screens as well. So they're doing their diligence here. They've picked it up on radar. They've asked the police to confirm that they can see it, physically see it. And now they've got in touch with another radar station to ask them to check their screens. And this radar station also confirmed they had one object on their radar moving at about 150 miles per hour. Which is pretty interesting. So the control center then ordered 2 F-16s from the nearby Beauvaisin Air Force Base to scramble and investigate. So, as I said, this started at 11 p.m. The 2 F-16s took off at 11:20 p.m. So literally 20 minutes.
Okay, pretty quick.
And headed towards the target. So I'm imagining they have some sort of probably actually it's just Danger Zone from Top Gun playing as they're scrambling to go find this.
Yeah, it's of course.
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Obviously, the pilots also have mustaches.
Yeah, and little canes.
And they're just, yeah, absolutely. So pilots throw Kenny Loggins into the cassette player and take off at 20 past 11. And they head towards the target. So they were actually guided by the radar station, which had a clear view of the object on its radar. But interestingly, the pilots couldn't actually see anything in the sky, even with their infrared and night vision systems.
Okay.
So they could actually only rely on their own onboard radars, which had limited range and accuracy. So these 2 planes are fucking roaring through the air. They can't see whatever it is they're flying to, and they're just trying to get another radar station to basically guide them to where they need to go.
Okay.
So the F-16s, they tried to approach the object from different angles and altitudes, but every time they got close, the object would accelerate and evade them. It would also drastically change its altitude and direction in an instant, making impossible turns and maneuvers. And yeah.
Oh no, and this is all kind of being picked up by their radar, the radar stations. It's not just they fly there and there's nothing there and they're looping around. They're saying, they can't see anything, and then the guys on the ground are saying, no, it's gone. Loop around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the F-16s then just couldn't keep up with it, and when they were starting to pick it up on radar, they could only lock onto it for a few seconds at a time before it would disappear. So the F-16 pilots allegedly said that it seemed like the UFO was playing with them, as it would sometimes slow down to let them catch up, only to speed up again and leave them behind.
Oh, that's just mean.
It is.
I don't think we want to meet these aliens. It's they're not fair.
Absolutely not. And then they also said then that it seemed to anticipate their moves and react accordingly. So it was as if it was basically toying with them, or on a more sinister side, testing their capabilities. So the chase continued for over an hour and covered a distance of about 120 miles. The object flew over several towns and villages, but no one on the ground actually reported seeing it. Okay. The only witnesses to this entire thing were the radar operators and the pilots, who were in constant communication with each other.
Do we know if this was a clear night or not, or was it because you were saying before this UFO would only appear on a clear night? Was it?
I don't know actually,
because the pilots couldn't
I'm not
see
sure. Yeah, not sure actually. I it doesn't actually say. I don't know. I don't know. So the pilots were in constant communication with the radar operators, and ultimately the chase ended at around 12:40 a.m. So an hour and 20 minutes after the pilots first made contact with it. The object disappeared from the radar screens, and the F-16s basically just returned to base. They had, this is what I saw described, they had no idea what they had been chasing or where it had gone. So, yeah, it basically, like, bamboozled the feck out of them.
Yeah, I'd imagine they were pretty, like, kind of, like, frustrated. Like, they kind of just, they got called out and then just, like, run around the place and nothing to show for it. Didn't see anything, didn't get to shoot anything down, didn't spot anything.
Yep.
A little bit embarrassed.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're probably like,
they're rare.
They were probably promised. They were promised blood.
Yeah.
Like they were told, like
this is it. This is it.
Yeah,
game time.
Yeah,
take her down.
So I'd be disappointed if I was them as well. Are you ready to see another picture, which is probably my favorite picture because it is peak 90s?
Yeah, go for it, please.
So this picture is a computer-generated image from a TV show in the 90s of what they decided it looked like.
At the time, or like a TV show at the time during the...
In 1992.
Okay.
So 2 years afterwards, it was on a show called Unsolved Mysteries.
Right, okay.
And they created this image based off character descriptions.
Oh my god.
It's...
What is that?
This is peak 90s CGI.
I have to like
This
zoom in.
is...
Oh yeah, that's like something. This is like the type of thing you see in like a bowling alley when like you get like a spare or something.
Oh my god, it is. It 100%
it's like this thing's
is.
coming in to pick up like a few of the bowling pins, but leaves one down. Yeah,
that is. Yeah. So I will post this on Instagram for everyone to see when this episode goes up, so you can enjoy this spectacle that is 90s computer generated images.
This is meant to be a city below it, right?
Yeah, so that was the other thing as well. It never flew over a city, but the the people generating the image just decided to add in a city where all the lights are purple. By the way,
and it's not like a building with lots of little lights. It's just one big light.
Yeah, just blob of buildings with purple lights.
I also like the red spotlights coming from the spaceship to remind us of the possible communist aspect.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. It's, you know, they're consistent on that at the very least. It's certainly it's a look that they went for, and I respect the look that they decided to go for.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So the F-16 chase was basically the most dramatic and well-documented event of the Belgian wave, but it actually wasn't the last. So the sightings continued for another month until they gradually faded away. So the last official report was filed on April 24th, 1990, when a triangular UFO was seen by police near the town of La Hulpe. The Belgian authorities basically were just completely stumped by this. And yeah, as I said, that was the last kind of reported viewing of it. So the authorities never found any sort of explanation for the UFOs, and they were pretty quick to just close the case and just mark it as unsolved.
I don't blame them, to be honest.
Yeah, so they released a report basically detailing the events of the wave and admitted that they had no idea what the objects were, where they came from. They also stated, though, that it was their opinion that the objects posed no threat to national security and that they respected the airspace and the sovereignty of the country.
I mean, like, clearly, like, you know, they didn't do anything.
I don't know. No, they didn't, but I don't know where they were able to interpret that from. The fact that it let two F-16s chase it.
It's an optimistic point of view.
It's definitely a standpoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
UFO wasn't doing anything. It was just goofing. Just having a little fly around.
Yeah, just out on its holidays, basically. Yeah. Just exploring Earth. Yeah. It's just bizarre. It's one of those ones. I love where they're basically just like, yeah, we don't know what it was, but we're certain it had absolutely no threat to anyone. So,
well, we're still here.
It's all G.
Yeah, like, Belgium's still there. So, like, I think they were right with that one in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's an interesting one, but yeah, it's just such a strange kind of series of sightings. That kind of then concludes the main series of kind of sightings and things like that. So there are obviously theories that come with this. So before I get into the theories, is there any kind of immediate thoughts that you have going here? Anything that you're... you're feeling?
It's like, it's with these kind of things, it's always like when there's like a big kind of public thing where it's like everyone's seeing these UFOs. So I'm gonna say kind of public kind of hysteria, where it's like everyone wants to see the UFO. It's the cool new thing to report it, and everything starts to look like UFO. I don't know though. The first picture is pretty weird. Like a bunch of F-16s being chased about. Like they didn't see anything. But then again, it was radar in like the 80s. Like how good can it be? Like maybe they messed up.
True, very true.
Like I'd imagine like radars give like especially even ones today, I'd imagine give like fake readings. So
I'd say so. Yeah,
like,
I'd imagine they probably do.
Like people could be like use them incorrectly or not be trained on it, or it can be set up wrong. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, like enough of my like silly theories.
Your ramblings.
Yeah, my ramblings of like just let's get to the good stuff. The real
deal. Yeah. Okay. There's some interesting theories going around on this. So the main theory, obviously, the obvious one is that it was UFOs.
Okay.
People say it was basically the aliens came down and that they were basically just sussing out the place.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's kind of the main one. People are just straight up saying it's aliens. Yeah.
Like any to that theory, is there any reason why they picked Belgium? Like repeatedly pick Belgium as well? Like
no, not that I've seen. Maybe they got tired of being in the States.
Yeah.
You know?
Just true a dart at like the map.
Yeah.
See where it lands.
And they just opted for Belgium. Look, it's one to go with. So that's the UFO theory.
Okay.
The next theory,
straightforward. I like it. It's
yeah. The next theory was brought forward by a man called Mark Hallett.
Okay.
And he says that this is a mass delusion.
Okay.
And that it was boosted by the work done by that SOBEPS, the UFO group.
Yeah.
And that he says that the mass delusion was basically followed by or made worse by what he says. Once news coverage leads the public to believe that UFOs may be in the vicinity, there are numerous natural man-made objects which, especially seen at night, can take on unusual characteristics in the minds of hopeful viewers. Their UFO reports in turn add to the mass excitement, which encourages still more observers to watch for UFOs. This situation feeds upon itself until such a time as the media lose interest in the subject, and then the flap quickly runs out of steam.
I mean, that's kind of like what I was like thinking, but I was kind of waiting for you to like for this guy to like kind of turn it into an anti-communist kind of like thing. But
no. This guy's basically just mass hysteria sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure about it, but I can see the logic behind it. I'm all on board for it, except for the fact that 2 F-16 fighter jets chased this object.
Yeah, that's the harder. Like they didn't see anything in the F-16; they only got radar stuff. But it's the fact that like 3 separate radar things all saw the same thing. So there's the 2 ground stations, and then there's the ones on the jets.
Yep.
I don't know. It's
a strange one, alright.
It's a strange one, unless there's a very quick moving cloud.
It's a strange one. So that's that one. Moving on, then. This isn't so much a theory as I just really love the kind of cattiness of it, so I just wanted to include it.
Go on.
So in 1993, Pierre Majan and Marc Remy published an article in the Physicalia magazine.
Okay.
In which they basically
is that a reputable magazine, or is this is that a scientific journal, or is it,
I think it might be.
Okay.
I don't know, but I'm gonna say it is. Why not?
Yeah, we'll presume they're good.
Yeah. And they basically said that the Belgian UFO wave should be better studied by people in the human scientists and in the human sciences than by physicists. So they just threw some major shade at physicists in their conclusions. I don't know why, but on why human sciences would be better than physicists, but there we go.
Are they kind of coming at it from the angle that it was like, are they coming at it from like the mass hysteria angle, or that it's like
maybe
that's what they're saying is like, look, this isn't a physics thing, this is a bunch of people kind of latching on to the same trend.
Maybe it's entirely possible. It could also be a case of that they're maybe trying to have a go at physics.
Maybe it's like, look,
implying that like physicists live in like dark, secluded corners of like buildings, drawing graphs.
Oh, no. It's, who knows?
I know. Yeah, I know. So moving on then, there's another book that came out. It was called The Belgian UFO Wave of 1989 to 1992, A Neglected Hypothesis.
Great title.
Basically, the author Renaud Leclerc says that he firmly believes that the sightings can be explained by helicopters, and that most witnesses reported that the objects were silent, and that this basically, his report argues that the lack of noise could be due to the engine noise in witnesses' cars or strong natural wind blowing away from the witnesses, like pulling away the noise. But he asserts that it's helicopters,
so he's not.
I don't know about that one.
He's not a fan of the UFO theory then.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's an interesting one.
Won't be buying that book.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, it's a funny one. So then around this time then, probably the most famous picture of all of this kind of surfaced.
Okay. Oh.
And I'm gonna send it to you now because this is allegedly this picture surfaced like around the time, but it was after the sightings.
Okay.
And this is similar to the first picture in that.
Yeah.
Again, it's a triangle craft taken from below, but this time it's much kind of clearer in that it's a triangular shape with red lights kind of shining from below it.
There's more contrast around it as well. You can actually see the body of it. Yeah.
So this kind of came out around the time, and people basically lost their minds on this.
And they had a second wind.
Yeah, basically. So it's super interesting. It's one of those things that this kind of came out and kind of reignited like public interest in it and stuff. And yeah, people were kind of saying like this is clear evidence of UFO activity and stuff like that.
There's no way there's no other explanation. It's clearly it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry,
what year did this? How many years after the kind of thing? After the events?
I think it was like 1991 or 2 or something like that. It was around the same time.
Okay.
It was basically, yeah.
So like this didn't come out like in like 5 years later. Like some guy said, "Oh yeah, like I had this."
Yeah. So this basically like completely like it was around the same time. It was like pretty much at the time. So this picture is an interesting one because it became the picture for the Belgian Wave UFO, but then a man came forward at some point in time.
Don't tell me it's not real.
So in 2011, a man came forward called Patrick Marichal.
No.
And I'm going to say, I don't have any evidence to back up what he has said here. But he came in and said, and apparently like publicly admitted to creating this photograph as a hoax to basically show that people will believe whatever they want. And he said that it's actually just a picture of a polystyrene triangle with 4 light bulbs attached to it.
He's a no good dirty liar. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. So experts have said that unfortunately with this picture, there's no background on the photograph, so there's no element that they could use to allow calculation of the object's size or distance from the camera. And people have reproduced a copy of the photograph with CGI. So they've managed to reproduce it and show that it's doable with what your man said about like polystyrene and things like that.
It's not the most complex shape. Like it's a triangle. It's like exactly. You can make it very easily. Yeah. yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of a weird one, but so the thing is, the photographer who allegedly claimed that he created this or that he hoaxed it, I don't think anyone can actually verify that he's the one that took the picture. So there's so much confusion around this now where this man, Patrick Marichal, has come out and said, oh yeah, I created it. It's false. But I think people are now saying that there's actually no evidence that he actually did create it. And now people are saying, is he just kind of claiming this for clout?
Like he could be. I mean, it's like so long after. Like, why would we believe him? Like, just some guy.
So I actually don't know what happens with all of this, but it's such a strange kind of picture, but I could believe that it is a hoax. Yeah. I definitely could.
I could.
But Daire,
go on.
To lock you back in, there is a final theory, which I personally believe could actually be the actual explanation for this.
Well, we've had actual aliens and mass hysteria where it's all just made up, and that's kind of me out of ideas. Well, sorry, and communists, but sorry. Go on. I'm intrigued. I want to know.
I will say, I personally think this is probably the most believable theory out here. Have you ever heard of Project Aurora?
Wait a minute. Project Aurora. I'm trying to. I had like a book when I was like a wee lad, and it was like filled with conspiracy theories and stuff. And there was one about some mad US military stuff where they were like, "Is this about like I'm mixing up?" I remember a story about a boat disappearing or something or teleporting.
Oh, that's the Philadelphia project.
That's Philadelphia.
No,
okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I'm just like a noob. This stuff. So
that's okay. Well, I also shouldn't know straight off hand, but you're very
like
brief description.
yeah. It's like this fucking amateur talking about the Philadelphia project. Who does he think he is? Amateur.
Yeah, I think if anything, I just gave more shame to myself there than you did.
You just outed yourself right there.
Yeah, I really did.
Then no, I'm not familiar with the Aurora project.
So, Project Aurora. Allegedly, this is a US military reconnaissance aircraft built with stealth technology that started in 1985.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind, these sightings happened in 1989.
Yeah.
There was a US budget allocation of $455 million allegedly given in 1985 to this. It was allegedly designed at the time, and working prototypes were created, and funding for the project apparently grew to like $2.3 billion within 2 years of it starting.
And for money back then, yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that this was basically going to be some sort of like stealth bomber kind of reconnaissance aircraft that ultimately led to, you know, like the B-2 bomber that like triangular shaped. Yeah.
Like the other one, the kind of classic stealth jet, the 117.
Yes.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
However, by the late 1980s, a lot of aerospace industry experts believed that the US had technology capable of making their planes travel at Mach 5 or beyond, and that this was going to basically be the replacement for the SR-71 Blackbird. People have actually looked into US defense budgets and have found hundreds of millions of dollars basically like channeled into black projects, and that no one knows where it went. By the mid-1990s, reports surfaced of sightings of unidentified aircraft flying over California and the UK, involving odd-shaped contrails, sonic booms, and related phenomena that the US... So that basically suggests that the US had developed some sort of stealth aircraft, and no one had basically seen it. This, though, is the smoking gun.
This is like the precursor to it all.
In late August 1989, while working as an engineer on a barge in the North Sea, a man named Chris Gibson saw an unfamiliar isosceles triangle-shaped Delta aircraft, apparently refueling from a Boeing Stratotanker, and it was accompanied by a pair of F-111 fighter bombers. Gibson watched the aircraft for several minutes until they went out of sight, and then he subsequently drew a sketch of the formation. When the sighting was made public in 1992, the British Defence Secretary Tom King was told, "There's no knowledge in the MOD of a black program of this nature, although it would not surprise the relevant desk officer in the Air Staff and Defence Intelligence Staff if it did." Other RAF pilots and such have written about mystery aircraft flying over their house. There was little to no engine noise or a pulsing sound is what they said. They'd see triangular shaped aircraft or lights disappearing overhead, and basically no one has seen this or knows what it is. Would you like to see a rendering of what the Aurora allegedly looks like?
Of course. I mean, yes, please. I'm very intrigued.
So the Aurora is basically this... If anyone's seen an SR-71 Blackbird, it's something very similar to it, except from the top and then obviously from the bottom, it's a pure triangle. Very, very, very similar, I would say, to the shapes seen over Belgium in 1989 and 1990.
Yeah, maybe. I have my doubts.
Yeah.
So this is like...
All I'm saying is, like, when you look at the sightings of Aurora and then you look at the sightings of the Belgian UFO wave, the sightings basically match up in timelines. They were seen in the United Kingdom in 1989, going into the early 90s. Triangular-shaped aircraft, and people basically assumed it was US Air Force.
Yeah, I mean...
Literally only a few hundred miles away in Europe. Like, Belgium's very close to the UK. Triangular-shaped UFOs... only flying at night in rural areas, away from
I hear what you're saying. It makes absolute sense. It's like if anyone's doing something funky in the sky at that time, it was probably the US Air Force. This like the plane, like the picture you shared, like it's just a big wing. It looks like it's a triangle. But there's like a few things that don't line up where it's okay. So like the lights, like the famous four lights, sorry, on like one on each kind of point and then one in the middle. So like are those sensors of some kind, or are they like kind of navigation lights? And if they are, why would you put navigation lights on your stealth aircraft?
True.
Yeah, and then like was this like you might have said in the original kind of sightings was like this thing like kind of hovering and stuff and like kind of just dancing around the place.
So people have said that Belgian UFO wave that they were hovering silently.
Yeah. So
in the air basically.
So this Project Aurora aircraft thing, like it couldn't hover, like it's at high speed kind of looking.
I doubt it could hover. Yeah. It seems to be very much on max speed. Like people have allegedly said that they've caught it doing Mach 5.2 at 90,000 feet.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Maybe it's like it's not hovering; it's just very high up and kind of looks like it's hovering.
So look, all I'm saying is this convinced me. I firmly have the tinfoil hat on now.
I mean, like, yeah, they probably do stuff, and like, if you are testing stuff out, and if you're making stealth aircraft, what's a better way to test it than to test it in like your allies' airspace? And if they catch you, you're just like, oh, sorry, man, won't do it again.
Exactly, against F-16s as well, which at the time would have been as advanced as the most advanced like Russian fighter jets. So all I'm saying is this for me is the most believable of the theories, except for obviously aliens. But yeah, that's where I've come down on this. I weirdly firmly believe that it's probably the US military.
US military. It is. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, but why did it create such a craze in Belgium? That's the weird part as well.
I suppose you're right though. You hit it on the head. I think it's an allied country. They've got no beef with the Belgians, and if they fly over Belgium and potentially get caught, Belgians aren't going to do anything about it. They're just like, all right, Grant, thanks for letting us know. You're protecting us from the east, so do what you want, basically.
Yeah.
Also, they gave the Belgians those F-16s, so I don't think the Belgians are going to have much to really kind of say about this.
Yeah, if they get upset, it's like they're not going to give out too much about it.
Yeah. So
I think it's the most likely.
For me, it's the most likely explanation. I would say.
I don't have an idea on kind of aerodynamics of like aircraft and stuff. Like, could something that looked like that go at whatever speed and outmaneuver whatever plane? Maybe if it's stealthy, it could. It's I don't know. I'd imagine it's hard to see at night.
Yeah, it would explain a lot about the like kind of like patchy like radar. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Picking up on the F-16 and stuff like that, especially if it's like early days kind of stealth stuff that they're still kind of like testing. Makes sense. But yeah, I think the cool thing about this case is that no one's really going to know definitively unless the US military were to come out tomorrow and be like,
yeah, that was us. I mean, like the US military's done some weird things like over the years. So as far as I know, they'll try anything. My favorite is still the pigeon guided rockets. Like they'll look if someone has and especially back then, if someone had a wacky idea, like they'll throw money at it.
Yeah, they literally had set up a group of psychics to basically see if they could like conduct psychological warfare on Russia. I think setting up the stealth bomber is not exactly out of the realm of
much more on the rational side of things. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a super, super interesting case, and as I said, I don't think we'll ever really definitively know what it is unless someone was to basically come out with receipts and go, that was us.
Yeah,
I think the agreed thing overall, though, from everyone, and it seems to be kind of universally across the board, people do agree that something happened. Yeah. They just don't know what. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about this case that is different from other UFO cases, is that you almost have this kind of universal agreement from people saying like, no, we don't doubt or dispute that something happened. It's just our theories on what it was are different. Whereas I think when you look at like a lot of cases in the US and things like that, you have a lot of people being like, that just didn't happen.
Yeah, it's like just like little town claiming that everyone in it sees a UFO or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what this one stands out a little bit more from the others.
I do think there is a bit of kind of kind of hysteria or whatever the word the other guy used, where it's like it's the trendy in thing where everyone wants to say they see like this shape and like
no, completely. Like, I definitely do think that there is a certain element of that to it,
but it's not the only thing.
No, because I think in the end I saw there was like 13,500 people came forward to say that they'd seen it or something like that, but that it was never seen over any sort of major cities or anything. So this is like 13,500 people in like rural Belgium in the late 80s, early 90s. That's a lot of people. So I don't know. It's a weird one. It's cool. Something happened, but ultimately I think we'll never actually really know. So
yeah,
it's a cool UFO case though, and it's one of those ones that I think it's weirdly more credible than a lot of others.
Yeah.
I think if you wanted to convince someone, or at least maybe not convince someone, but maybe kind of make them doubt their kind of skepticism on UFOs, this is the one.
But I think the most credible theory is still like it's not alien. It's
it's
just like
absolutely,
okay, it's like this is all this spooky stuff. But no, in the end it was America,
which is arguably more spookier than UFOs.
Even when you don't know, they're still there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, it is still a UFO. It's just not an alien. Like that's the thing. Like, and I think that's why people have moved away from calling them UFOs now. They call them UAPs, which is a unidentified aerial phenomenon. Because I think they're trying to move away from the connotation that UFO is an alien.
Like
UAP, I think they're trying to acknowledge that a UAP could be man-made. Most likely is. So that seems to be kind of the logic now, that they're trying to move away from the kind of older term and trying to give it a bit more of a modern kind of,
there's a certain connotation with UFO, like that.
For sure. Yeah. So
no, it's
that's it. That's the Belgian UFO wave. I really enjoyed this one. It's a really fun story, but I'd really encourage people to go read up on it more and kind of have a look at the pictures. As I said, I will post them on Instagram so you can see for yourself. But do go on and have a look, have a read of some of the statements. There's some cool like YouTube videos on it, 1 or 2 documentaries with some incredibly dated graphics, which are great crack as well. But yeah, I would, I'd encourage people to go have a look for yourself and see what you think. And let us know yourself, like, you know, do you think that this was a UFO? Do you think it was aliens, US military? Like, what's your thoughts on this? You can get in touch with us on Instagram at the spookyaf pod, or you can get in touch with us on Gmail at the spookyafpodcast@gmail.com. You can send in your theories, your thoughts, whatever you want, and we'll have a look at them. And yeah, that's it for today. Daire, thank you so much for joining us, being our first guest. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here and to have a healthy dose of skepticism to my clearly unhinged knowledge of all things.
Like, foot to the floor, it's aliens. No, thanks a million.
No
thanks
problem
for having me. I really appreciate it for you having me on and for being your first guest.
Yeah, no problem. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm just sorry that I outed myself as a total conspiracy theory UFO nut when I immediately knew you were talking about the Philadelphia experiment from a very brief explanation that you gave.
Like descriptions, like, oh, this guy.
But yeah, thank you so much for listening, everyone, and I hope you have a fantastic day, weekend, whenever it is that you're listening to this, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.